Pets add so much to our lives. And so today I want to talk about the pets that we've had in our lives. And I'd love to hear your comments below about the favorite pets that you've had. When I was growing up, our family had a family dog, and you can kind of see the dog there. It was a Dalmatian Terrier mix. And this dog was such a happy dog, would always wag its tail whenever it saw you, and had the softest ears. The history behind this Dalmatian Terrier mix is it was actually supposed to be a hunting dog, but it was gun shy. So my dad's friend, who was a hunter, gave the dog to my dad and our family so that we would have a family pet. This dog we had ever since I was probably 4. We had the dog until I was a senior in high school. So that dog, Dalmatian Terrier mix, I loved its soft ears and its waggly little tail. So that was the first pet I ever had. And then when I was in about mid-grade school, there was a chicken in my life. I was kind of a sciencey kid, and so I asked my parents for a quail incubator. And that was something that you'd see in the back of magazines, and you could get this quail incubator and it would incubate quail eggs. And they would send you the quail eggs and you'd put them in there, and then you could watch the eggs hatch. And since both my parents were school teachers, they thought that was a very appropriate gift. So they ordered me the quail incubator for, I think it was Christmas. Then the eggs came in the mail. But of course, no matter how well you try to insulate eggs, if you're sending them in the wintertime, it was cold and the eggs weren't viable. So I would try various eggs. My dad at his school also, he was a middle school teacher, and they did some sort of an experiment with eggs there, and the electricity had gone out at the school. So he brought the eggs home, and I tried to hatch those, and they didn't hatch either. So then some neighbor kids brought me over some random eggs they found, so I didn't know what eggs they were too. They actually hatched in the quail incubator. Well, one of them did. And my grandpa looked at it and he goes, "That doesn't act like any chicken I've ever seen." He thinks it was some sort of a wild chicken because it was really scrawny. We don't know what it was because it was some egg the neighbor kids found, but it was a small, very devoted chicken that would follow me around like a dog. In fact, it would lay in the yard with the dog, which is funny because our dog was supposed to be a bird dog, was supposed to fetch birds. Obviously, our dog was not a birder because, first of all, she was gun shy, and second of all, she would allow this chicken to lay next to her. But instead of laying like a normal chicken where they put their legs underneath them and nestle down, this chicken, like our dog, would flip on its side and stick its legs out. And so my grandpa thought the chicken was dead. He'd walk by and see the dog laying with its legs out and the chicken laying with its legs out. Thought that was the funniest thing. I also had trained the chicken to jump up on my arm. If I was walking and I'd do like that, the chicken would jump up and just ride there. And I also knew that if the chicken wagged its tail feathers, that it was about ready to poop. So I'm terrible with this, but I would have, by then I was in middle school, and one of my best friends, Beth, would come over and I'd have Chickadee on my arm and I'd see the tail wiggle and I just kind of pointed at her and the chicken would poop all over her. And so she would go, "I don't know why that chicken always poops on me." Beth, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. What a middle school thing to do, right? What other animals? Oh, for some reason I showed my rabbit. It was a smoky blue colored rabbit, and she got a second place ribbon at the fair. I wasn't as close to the rabbit as I was to the chicken, but my brother was really into rabbits. He had cages and cages that he'd built and enclosed in wire, and he pretty much took care of all the rabbits, but since it was my rabbit, I got a ribbon. And then as a young adult, I was working at a preschool, and one of my fellow teachers raised guinea pigs as a side hustle, plus she loved guinea pigs. And there was a very small guinea pig that was the runt that no one wanted to adopt. So she gave me the guinea pig. And so here is me with my guinea pig. I'm trying to keep the light out of it. What I was trying to do in this picture, I was trying to look as much like the guinea pig as possible. So I dressed in the browns and creams, and my hair was a little bit of the shade of brownish red that the guinea pig had. It was a tricolor. But I loved that little guinea pig. And I kept it in an apartment because I was living in an apartment then. And I would let it out to run around when I was there, and it would run to me like a little dog. And I just loved that little guinea pig. I also got another guinea pig after that. But sometimes it's like when you fall in love with a pet and then that pet passes and you get another pet, the other pet doesn't have the same characteristics. It takes you a while to get used to the new pet. And then when I became a parent, there comes a time when you're thinking we should have pets so the kids learn ownership, pet ownership, and how to be kind to those smaller and weaker than you. So my daughter, when she was 8, we got her 2 guinea pigs, and she adopted them from another family. And my son was the one who actually fell in love with my daughter's guinea pigs. She ended up giving him one of the guinea pigs for his birthday, so they each had a guinea pig. And then we had to get chickens because I had remembered my chickens so fondly. And we lived in an area of a city where you can have backyard chickens. So we got a little movable coop to go around the backyard so that the chickens could fertilize and eat the weeds and grass. And we got some chickens. Now, anytime, if you're a pet lover and you try to get a picture of a pet, it's hard enough getting a picture of one of your pets facing you. But here that chicken is facing, that's looking away, and that one's facing. So those were our first 3 chickens that we got. And I researched to find out which were the chickens that laid the best eggs, but were also the friendliest with children. That's a Buff Orpington and a Wyandotte. And I don't remember the name of the red one, but my daughter would because that was her favorite chicken. But those were the chickens that we had, and they were like family. They would follow the kids around. They'd be picked up. They'd come into the window wells of our basement and watch my husband while he worked in the basement. And they were just wonderful chickens. And throughout the years, we would update the coop. We started out with the move around the yard coop, but when we got a trampoline in the backyard, when the kids were teenagers, we got a full-size coop the chickens could go to in the backyard. That was kind of in an out-of-the-way place, so they wouldn't get stomped on with kids jumping on trampolines and stuff. And then we also started doing some fostering through the Humane Society. We had guinea pigs at the time and chickens, and then we fostered other guinea pigs. We fostered rabbits. We fostered hamsters. And oh my gosh, some of those animals were just amazing. There was one little hamster that had an infection in his eye, and he had, I think, some sort of ear problem. And he was so friendly. We put him in his little cage, and somebody had left the top open a little bit, and I was reading in bed, and I looked down, and I saw movement. He'd gotten out of his cage and walked down the hallway and into my bedroom and was like wanting to be picked up. Is that adorable or what? And then we had another guinea pig. Most guinea pigs are shy, but this particular guinea pig, it was like a dog. It wanted to walk around the house and see what was going on, and I would just follow it. It's just fun having pets, getting to know their personalities, getting to see them interact with not only yourself, but also your spouse and your kids and friends that come over. We also would babysit our friends' guinea pigs, so we'd trade off guinea pigs. And so that was nice. And now in retirement, I have a grand dog. My grand dog is a doodle, and I don't get to see him as often as I would like, just like most grandparents are with their grandkids, whether they be person skin or fur skin. But that's my grand dog. And then I was thinking, is it time for me to get a pet of my own in retirement? So I did some research and found out that these days, you just don't get a dog like you did in the old days. The old days, you just got a dog, and then you gave the dog some food, and that was it. Dog wandered around the neighborhood, peed wherever it wanted, did its own thing, and came home when the dinner bell rang. But you can't do that with dogs these days. You need to get them microchipped and spayed and neutered. And well, actually, our dog was spayed. There's medical expenses. There's even pet insurance that's as expensive as people insurance, so that if your pet gets cancer or something. And I guess I got a little overwhelmed reading about what is expected as a pet owner today, especially a dog or cat owner, that wasn't expected back in the day. And probably farms, it's similar today as it was, because I was raised out in a rural area, so you did let your pets wander. Yeah, finding out how expensive it is to have a dog these days, that I decided that temporarily, instead of getting a real pet, I would get a stuffed animal. Makes me sound terrible, doesn't it? But what I got, I tried to get something as close to my grand dog as possible. And so this is the dog that I got. And I got it at IKEA. It's about the size of my grand dog. And it's really soft. And I figured that I could use it on the couch as a back pillow. So this is my back pillow, temporary pet, until I decide if I want to invest in as much money as a pet these days costs. And also, since I am in early retirement, we might want to travel, we might have some changes where we live. And so I kind of wanted to wait until we were settled to wherever we're going to be, wherever that may be. So it may be several years before we actually get a pet. I've become more interested in visiting with my neighbors that are walking their dogs and petting their dogs. I mean, I need to learn how to deal with dogs. Even though we had a pet dog when I was a kid, it was different then. Now there's a lot of rules, so I need to find out all the dog rules. Until then, I guess I've got my IKEA dog. So if you've got a pet currently that you just love, or a favorite pet of the past, I'd love to hear about your pet below as well, because I'm kind of going through this dog phase. In the future, I look forward to getting a dog. But for right now, this is my dog. Thanks for watching Barb Talks.